All right, hello here again. I just want to talk about a few things here with machining relationships, and jobs, and what really is machining. So, machining for me, I like to describe it as a process. You're cutting metal, is the name of the game, and you have to have a few different tools in your arsenal. So, the one is, well, you have to have a blueprint. So, blueprint might, be something like this. On the blueprint, um, it will spec everything about the part, what kind of material it's manufactured out of, dimensions and tolerances that need to be held on it to make sure it's good. Here's the actual part that goes with that print. Um, Basically, everything about the part. So to make it in specification. So you need a blueprint. You also need a machine tool. So typical machining processes are going to either be on a milling machine, or a lathe. So a lathe makes a part more, shaped like this. A milling machine might be a part, it might make something more, three-dimensional. So something more like that. So both of these are machine tools. With a lathe and a milling machine, you can basically make any part that you wanted to. And then there's all kinds of configurations that come off of that. So what we're going to start with in this class is just manual machining, where we're going to use the lathe and the mill, our most common tools. So you need to decide which one of those machine tools you want to use to manufacture the part. Well, like I said, like this part here is cylindrical, so cylindrical parts would be manufactured in the lathe, and that would be the machine you would use for the most part, to make that machine or make that component and make it meet blueprint specifications. Then you also have to have measuring equipment. Um, so very common tool that a machinist is going to use is a vernier or a digital or dial caliper. That is the most common tool that you'll use for measuring, and that's to ensure that, hey, does my part actually meet the specifications from the blueprint? So otherwise, all of the parts that you start with, they all start with raw materials. So, this piece here, this is a piece of stainless steel. This started out as a bar of stainless steel that was actually, you know, 20 foot, either 12 or 20 foot in length, and it was 2.5 inches in diameter. And then it was machined down to what we see here. So it's not like we took that whole bar and just started machining on it. We usually would go first and we'd saw it down to a reasonable length to work with, and then go through the machining process. So the fun part about machining is that you actually get to you're given a blueprint and you're given the raw material, and then you have to choose what machine tool you want to use, and you use your own intuition and smarts on your way to work your way into manufacturing that part into its final, dimensions and tolerance. So basically, you get to use a lot of creativity, which makes it really fun. So otherwise, that's just machining in a whole, what you do and how it roughly works. So other things I want to just talk about quick was so jobs in the field. So machining is, there's a lot of different jobs you can get in machining. Basically, I break them down into, we've got categories here, like your production or CNC machine. Basically, that's a way to manufacture the parts in, mass volume. You might get a job, maybe working in a maintenance department, and maybe you're making and repairing type, parts like this that break on the job site. Tool and die is another position that you can get into, and with that, tool and die is kind of your top tier as a machinist. You're probably going to use a little bit of manual machining, a little bit of CNC machining, and a lot of measuring tools and precision tools to make sure that the part is perfect. So I'll kind of break down each one of those areas. So production CNC, basically then you're making a higher volume. So a CNC machine it can still be a lathe or it can still be a mill, but it's computer controlled and it's made to make more than one or two or three of something. Usually you're looking at higher volume, and that's the benefit of that. You set up the computer and the machine, and it'll manufacture the part over and over. Versus on a manual lathe or a manual mill, you're going to be the operator and you're going to be turning dials and things to make it all come into specification. Usually on a manual machine, you're only going to make, one or two of something, where a CNC, you can make volume of 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000. It just depends on what kind of machinery you have. So the CNC side of things, usually you will see those are more production based. They are, let me think here, a couple things. So you're going to see more volume, and you're not going to be maybe as involved. It just depends how big the shop is. So some machine shops that are CNC shops just may have, programmers, and they may have operators. So you might fall in one of those categories. The big thing you're going to do is more high volume locally here, just to reference a couple companies here, like in Modesto here. ENS Precision is a machine shop locally. Fastenal, Fowler Machine Works, Modesto Machine. Those are all more bigger volume, more production type sets or companies. And then series, there's Prompt Precision, Prima Precision, Greenwood Machine. Those are all located there in series. Turlock, Sinister Wheel, Tech Manufacturing, Lock and Stitch, Oakdale. There's quite a few machine shops out in Oakdale. There's Heighton, Norsco, AccuSwiss, Micro Machine, Hager. If you've ever heard any of those companies, that's kind of what they specialize in for the most part is CNC machining. So salary range in those companies, I mean, across the board, in the Valley here, you're probably looking at anywhere from maybe $15 an hour on the low end if you're just an operator, and if you're programming, you might be in upwards of $25 to $30 an hour. So that's kind of the CNC overview. Maintenance positions, again, maintenance is more of, when you need, you've got this and the threads are stripped out and you need to make a new one. You need to solve a problem for maybe it's a production, like a factory here in town, maybe it's a Gallo, maybe it's a Frito-Lay. And a piece of machinery that's on the line is broken and needs to be repaired now. So again, you could order something, but a machinist that's on site, like a maintenance machinist, can go through and identify what the part is, what the problem is. Basically, either have a destroyed part or maybe a little sketch on a napkin, and literally they will go through and manufacture the part to repair the problem, get the machine up and going, same day type scenario. So, so in those, and that might be a piece of your job in maintenance, unless it's a bigger facility where there might be a full-on maintenance machinist that's all he does. So those types of jobs, you're looking at your repair type work, and they support production. They're supporting the overall production. They're not really in production. They're just there to support and help out behind the scenes, and obviously maintain the equipment. So I said Frito there. Silgan is another one. Blue Diamond is local here to the Valley. Ball Metal Pack, Del Monte. Those are all companies that would have like a maintenance or maintenance machinist. And again, in those jobs there, if you're in that role, you're probably looking at, $20 to $30 an hour, just because you have to have some skills. And it's not really CNC machines. Usually some of those facilities may have a CNC machine, but for the most part, they're going to be doing manual work and making, one or two of something. And then the last category there was tool and die. So tool and die, like I said, is kind of like the top tier. So they're going through and making fixturing, making tooling that is going to support production. So they're making high-end parts that need to last a long time, and there's a lot of engineering and time that goes into it. They might be involved in the engineering process, and then they're definitely involved in the manufacturing and making of, again, it's usually fixturing and special tooling required for production. So beautiful part of that job is that every day you're doing something new. You're never going to be doing the same thing twice. You're always, it's this project, it's that project, it's that project, so you're always working on something new. And they're usually quite a bit more complex, some of these projects are. Very tight tolerances usually. So just a reference there, the ones I penciled down here, Simpson Strong Tie is located there in South Stockton. They do some tool and die work to support their production for their punch presses. Silgan Containers has some tool and die positions to support their cannery and making those cans. Ball Metal Pack again out in Oakdale, and then another one is Lamar Tool and Die. So those are all local ones here, and in those positions, I mean, you can make anywhere from $20 to upwards of $40 an hour in those positions because you're very, very skilled in the machining trade. Most likely, you're not going to pull a job like that unless you have some experience, at ground level and kind of worked your way up. But you build your skill set, and that's kind of, something to strive for if that's your cup of tea. And again, all these areas are all fun. I mean, solving problems in maintenance is fun. Making parts, making, one of these and then trying to make 50 and 100 and trying to get your cycle time down and see how fast you can make it. Those are all fun aspects of machining. And then as well as tool and die, where you really have to put your head to it to come up with a perfect design that's going to last long term. So Other than that, that was kind of just the area I just wanted to cover just a little bit there, so you kind of had a little insight to what machining is all about and kind of jobs available in the field. So that is all for now.